Welcome to my channel. This is an indication of some of the things that I cover on a regular basis in my videos. If you haven't already subscribed, please feel free to do so, and don't forget to click the little bell so that you'll get notified of future videos. Please feel free to share my videos on your social media, and I hope you enjoy the video which follows.
Well, as John Cleach would say, now for something totally different. If you follow Brendan, Bacon Soda from Northern Ireland, always has interesting videos, gardening and his wood turning and all of that sort of thing. He recently put up a video where he had purchased seed bombs, I guess you call them. I've also heard it called guerrilla gardening. But I wanted to show you mine, Brendan, if you're watching. I ordered $10 for this little sack with 5 in it. The company is called Radical Roots. Radical Roots. I presume that's also, yeah, radicalroots.ca. It's a Canadian company. His came from Ireland. And the ones that I selected are for a butterfly garden. They are compacted soil, I guess, with seeds in, and when the guerrilla gardening idea is you just throw these in various places. I have company coming today, just for the day, some family coming to visit, and along with the adults will be 2 of my great nieces, and I'm going to keep one of these for myself, and the rest of them I'll be giving to my great nieces. You just place it somewhere and keep it watered, and hopefully the seeds that are in the compacted dirt ball will germinate, and the ones that are in this are supposed to be for a butterfly garden. Somewhere here I saw a list. Butterfly milkweed, wild lupins, Joe Pye weed, purple prairie clover, white aster, and false blue indigo are the seeds that are supposed to be in that. I'm going to just lay mine on the soil and somewhere in the greenhouse where I will know where it is. You just water it and it should slowly dissolve and spread the seeds, it says, over about a square foot area. So I'll show you me planting this later, and I hope the little girls enjoy it and get some luck out of theirs too. Well, it's a foggy June 24th morning as I'm trying to put a few clips together for this weekend's video. The laburnum is looking very good this year. It blooms every year, but it seems on alternate years it's better than it was the year before, and I think this is probably its good year. I've had that thing for many years. I don't know, I just love it. Over in Nova Scotia there is a garden called the Historical Gardens in Annapolis Royal. Visited there quite a few years ago, and they planted it like wisteria. A long tunnel that had these, not as large as that tree, but had these trees growing up and over an arbor. So when you walk through the tunnel, there was all of these golden chains hanging down, the same as I've seen done with wisteria. It was very interesting. Well, the various critters that were attacking my squash plants seem to have, well, they've at least taken a break. I have added a lot of pellets, slug pellets, over the past week or two, and that seemed to eliminate the slugs. And if it was voles or whatever it was, I don't know. They haven't devoured a whole plant lately, anyway. I did plant cosmos in each one of the squash beds, just one plant in each one, thinking that they would be higher up in the air with blossoms that would attract pollinators for some of the squash flowers that might be down below large leaves. And I had 2 of those completely gone, just a little stub left. And the entire plant was eaten. I don't know if that was a rabbit or what it was, but I've also found tunnels
leaving some of the places where I've lost a squash plant, so I'm once again blaming that on a rodent of some sort. But my plan was to have a different squash in each of the 3 areas where I'm growing these roost oak beds with squash in. Well, that went by the wayside. So many different plants got devastated that I just replanted with whatever I had available. So now each bed is mixed. I'm not quite certain. I think the furthest one away there is a black futsu, and the closest one, I don't know. It's either red curry or it could be one of the costata romanesca, the zucchini, heirloom zucchini from Italy. So whatever they're growing is the main thing, I guess. I guess the peas have reached their full height, and both varieties, the plants closest to the camera here are the Yorkshire Hero, heirloom variety, and the ones further away are a commercially purchased pea I can't remember the name of, but did discover afterwards that they are also an open pollinated variety. But the Yorkshire pea has got its blossoms sort of in a crown at the top of the plant, whereas the other one is more what I would say I normally see on pea vines, as blossoms all the way up the vine. I grew a variety called something or other crown a number of years ago, which was an heirloom variety, and they did this thing also where all their blossoms were at the top of the plant in sort of like a crown, which is where it got its name. But if I remember rightly, those had colored blossoms, not white. I can't exactly recall what color they were, but looking forward to trying the Yorkshire Heroes anyway. And the carrots have started growing quite nicely. There are several patches where I guess I just didn't get very good germination, and I've reseeded them, and they've started to come up, tiny little seedlings at this point, so they won't be full grown, I suppose, when I'm pulling the other ones. And I did have a couple of these cut off. You could see where it had been chewed off right at the base. Not something that was done by a slug or anything. I'm quite sure that was done by one of my rodent buddies as well. But I'm pleased with the carrots. I've removed all of the radish that were running down the middle there between the 2 rows, and really enjoyed those. Those grew the best for me I think I've ever grown radishes before. I had a lot of nice radishes this spring. A friend gave me some melon seedlings that she had started from seed. The variety is Petit Gris. It's a French heirloom cantaloupe type, I guess. It sort of has a gray-green appearance when it's fully ripe and ready to pick. They were in a 6-pack with 2 or 3 seeds germinated in each one, and I didn't separate them. Or if I did separate them in some places, I just still left a couple, because I'm skeptical as to what might happen with the slugs, even though I've put slug bait down and whatever. I've got several growing in places out here in the roost oak bed, and I also planted several in the greenhouse, in the hoop house. Those are the ones that are more apt to produce, but I had spots here, particularly where the cosmos got eaten down, so I put in a clump of them in each one of those, and so far they're looking okay. And this is inside of my brassica cage here, which has been very successful so far at keeping the cabbage loper moth out of there. I did have a little bit of slug damage, but just sprinkled in a few slug pellets, and that took care of them. If I remember rightly, the row closest to the camera here is cauliflower, and then broccoli, and you may not even be able to see, but behind the broccoli is kale, Scotch kale, and for some reason it's always collapsed, sort of laying down on the ground, but it is growing lots of new leaves, so I'll be able to pick some leaves off of that soon, and hopefully it'll pick up. And the back row is cabbage. The cabbage hasn't started to head up, and I don't see anything on the broccoli or the cauliflower yet. One day last week I was kind of discouraged looking at it, thinking it isn't growing very much, and then that same day I just happened to see a photograph that I took the day that I planted them, and oh yeah, they've grown. They're like 8-10 times larger than they were when I planted them in there. I'll show you something else that's happening in there here. If you remember, I was having problems with this thing collapsing on itself in the wind. And somebody or several of my subscribers recommended putting posts in each of the four corners of it, and that's also what it said in the instructions that came with it. So I did that. Two of the posts, particularly the two at the back there, are just pieces of a small birch tree that I cut and used as a post. They both have got leaves on them. I just kept thinking that, it's leaved out a little bit, they'll fall off. They haven't fallen off. I wonder if it's going to take root. I've never seen anything quite like that happen before, although, it was a live tree. I used large pruning shears and cut some sections off it and used it as posts. And I must say that has worked. It's never collapsed again, and we've had some fair amount of wind. We always get a fair amount of wind here. Both varieties of beans are both bush beans, but they're both doing very well. I haven't lost any that I can see. And usually the problem with them is cutworms. It'll cut them off when they're tender, just getting started to grow. But the soil that they're growing in is entirely that organic's the word I'm looking for, organic pro mix. So it didn't have any cutworms in it, at least, and it doesn't look like any have moved in. In the center, you might be able to see a cosmos plant. As I said, I've put those here, there, and everywhere in the garden. The last time I showed these, I called the heirloom beans Yorkshire Hero, which is not right. That's my peas. These are another heirloom self-pollinated, open-pollinated variety. They're called Lewis beans, the green ones. And the ones in behind are a yellow wax bean that I just bought at a garden center. Well, my little strawberry patch from the 9 strawberry plants that I managed to start from seed. The best success I've ever had doing that. Only ever tried it one other time, but they worked very well this time. The one in the very center was the first one to have a blossom, and it has a green, half-grown green strawberry with more flowers coming out all the time. I mentioned, I think, in the last time I showed these that my plan was to pot up the runners so I could start another bed. Well, I decided I don't really have a bed to dedicate to them, so I'm just letting the runners root in there, and if I feel that they've overcrowded the bed, I'll remove some, but some plants don't have runners and others have got a couple of runners, so should be good, I guess. Next to the strawberries, this is my bed of butter crunch lettuce. You see some blank spots in there. It's where I've been harvesting it and using it. It's very good, nice and crisp. Makes an excellent salad. I've been making it into Caesar salads, even though it's not a romaine lettuce, but really enjoying it. As these plants come out, this is the location where I plan to try to grow a few rutabagas, turnips, Swedes, whatever you want to call them. I haven't even planted the seeds in a tray yet. If I start them too early here, I end up with rutabagas that weigh 10 to 15 pounds each, and that's not good for anything. So I have another tray of lettuce seedlings started, though, and when the peas are finished, they'll go in there for a fall harvest, hopefully, of lettuce. This has been an excellent variety. I've never grown it before. It's a head-type lettuce, but a very loose head, not at all like iceberg. You can see it's sort of starting to head up there, but it always stays very loose. Well, this is the bed that was my asparagus bed. I covered it with cardboard and composted chicken manure and that organic pro mix. However, one of the asparagus plants has still found its way up through. It isn't that the cardboard has deteriorated because we've had no wet weather. We haven't had rain in weeks here. There must have been a space between some of my cardboard and it found its way up. There's one tall spear that's about to turn into ferns and 3 more spears down below, so I'm leaving it alone. And the rest of the bed, the 2 larger squash-type plants are spaghetti squash. I didn't grow them myself. I bought them at a garden center, Canada Green. And the smaller one is a red curry squash. And next to where that asparagus is back there, that's a chili. I'll have to wait till I get inside of the hoopos to do a little video and tell you what the name of it is. I also bought that at Canada Green. It's relatively hot chili, hotter than jalapeno, but not a lethal one. I think 15,000 to 30,000 on the Scoville scale. So and they look sort of like a Thai chili when they're ripe. They're small, red, like a Thai chili. And also in the middle there, I've got one of my cosmos plants. He stopped singing. I was going to say the bird singing in the background is a cardinal. If you could pick that up, that's my cardinal singing for a mate this morning. This is the roost oat bed that I'm growing just fruit in. I have my alpine strawberries and a collection of different varieties of raspberries. And finally, I was able to find some gooseberries, once again at Canada Green. I've been trying all spring, had orders online canceled because they were sold out and whatever. I got 2 bushes, 2 different varieties. And I'll let you try to pronounce that if you can see it. Hinomaki red, something quite like that anyway, that particular one. And if you can see, it has got fruit. Both of the gooseberries have some fruit on them, and that one I guess will turn red. The other one, just another gooseberry plant, it also has some fruit on it. I won't bother to show that as well, but it's called Black Velvet. And is that in focus at all? I guess so. Evidently the fruit on it turns black. As of right now, the fruit on it is also smaller. The berries on this one is much larger, and I must water them tonight. We have had a long dry spell. A little look around inside of the greenhouse. This is the Costata Romanesca, the heirloom Italian zucchini, the only one that I planted in the hoopos, and it is doing much better than the ones outside, of course, because being from Italy, I assume it really likes the heat. I have to keep it watered every day or it wilts in here. It already has some female blossoms coming, possibly some male blossoms too. I was surprised at that because most squash plants start with a whole lot of male blossoms, but looks like I'm going to be able to enjoy some little zucchinis off of it in the not too distant future. The onions are doing quite well. At least 3/4 of the row is doing quite well. When you get 3/4 of the way down, the last quarter, they're all still alive, but they're nowhere near as large as these are, and I don't understand. The whole bed is, getting watered the same amount, and they're all growing in the same mix, but maybe they'll catch up later on. But there's at least 25% of them down at the very end of the row that aren't half as tall as these ones. And the cold tomatoes are lots of blossoms and lots of small tomatoes on them now. So I suspect in July sometime I'll get my first ripe tomato out of these. They're a very early variety, which is why I've decided to grow just those. I can grow the larger, like beefsteaks and whatever, in here in the greenhouse, but still don't get a ripe one until the end of August sometime. And when I was at Canada Green, I managed to replace the basil plants that I lost from my Richter's order. The European gherkin plants have really started to take off. They're also enjoying the heat. I haven't seen any flowers that have opened yet, but there's one of them, particularly right there, has started to lean over because it's growing its sort of vine that'll I'll have to try to keep from stepping on. Lots of blossom buds. And it's parthenocarpic, so each flower will produce a cucumber, and they grow quite quickly once they have flowered. So I think probably in the next week or so I'll see some small cucumbers. Beets are filling in nicely, still a little bit knocked over from where I watered them last evening, but really in the last week or so they've completely closed in that area. I haven't dared to take a peek down below to see whether or not there's little beets developing yet, but they're only supposed to be golf ball size when you pick them anyway, so it may turn out to be true that within 35 to 40 days I'll have some small beets. And that's a fennel plant. Also, I picked that up at the greenhouse, Canada Green. 2 or 3 of the branches on it are kind of yellow, and growing some nice new fronds up the center, so I should probably prune the yellow ones off. You might remember I tried to grow some fennel from the fennel seeds that you buy in the spice rack. Didn't get a single germination, so when I saw that at Canada Green, I thought, well, at least I'll have one. I'll try that and see what happens. To the right of it is a Italian parsley plant that came from Richter's. Very sad story with my Richter plants, I guess. Some of them are surviving, but I've lost by far the majority. Of the 12 English lavender plants, I think I have 8 that are looking pretty good. They're still growing anyway, and I don't know. One or two of the jalapenos are looking sad, but they're going to recover, I think. And the Bishop's Crown is the best looking of the chilies, so that's good. I wanted to try that one. I've never grown it before. The Japanese eggplant lost a lot of its leaves, but it's growing new leaves. So whether in my climate, if it has time to grow big enough to produce anything, we won't know until later on, but at least it's alive. Well, that's 3 more of the chili plants, one that I showed out in that new bed where my asparagus used to be. It's chili de arbol, A-R-B-O-L, a Spanish chili. And as I said, it's hot, but not lethally hot. It's 15,000 to 30,000 on the scale there. You see holes in the leaves. They didn't have those holes in the leaves when I bought them. They were very healthy looking plants. In the spring in here, I always have an infection of flea beetles. Everything in here gets holes in the leaves. But as the weather gets warmer, I don't know if they're only around in spring or they just don't like the heat in here, but already the grape leaves, new grape leaves that are coming on, don't have any holes, and the older ones look like lace. The top of these chili plants have got little blossom buds, and as I said, it sort of looks like a Thai chili, same size and a bright red when it's ripe, just not as hot as a Thai chili. And that's my golden chard. It's got the same issue with the flea beetles, but they're growing quite nicely and seem to like the extra warmth in here. Shouldn't be too much longer, and I'll be able to have some chard, a few leaves from each of the 5 plants anyway. Well, I think that's everything I want to show you here at this garden, and I'm now going to go up to the community garden just to show you how my potatoes are doing in my Ruth Stoat bed up there, and I'll look around at some of the other plots and how they're doing as well. Okay, so I lied. I forgot that I had to plant my seed balm. And that's it sitting there. My little great nieces left with theirs yesterday, so hopefully they're being planted today too. I'm going to put a little white marker beside that so that I will remember where it is and give it a little water each time I water in here. Hopefully we'll see something happen there before the end of the season. Well, this is my potato patch, and I hope I have battery enough to show you a few more things here, but it says 20 minutes remaining, and that's always a lie. It disappears very quickly. I'm pleased with the potatoes so far. On the left are russets, a baking potato, not tomato, and on the right, a Yukon Gold. The Yukon Gold were a lot slower coming up, but they're sort of gaining in strength now anyway. This bed of strawberries belongs to the lodge here, and lots of green berries, but they're much larger than the ones I have at home. I think they enjoy this location, there's so much sunshine. This is the bed next to mine, and it is looking very good. 2 rows of beets, several rows of potatoes. I see a couple of tomato plants and a couple of pepper plants down at the end, but looking very healthy. And this herb bed belongs to the lodge as well. And those are all herbs that overwintered. Thyme and lavender and sage and chives. And I do see a basil plant that's been added down below there. All looking very healthy. This bed is coming on very nicely. I just had to ask somebody. I wasn't sure what the large leaf plants are, but they're rutabagas, what we call turnips. If they're growing this early in the year, they're going to have some monsters up here by the time it comes time to harvest them in the fall. I couldn't get over the size of the ones that I grew last year. I also see beets and carrots and something else in between the beets and the carrots that I'm not quite sure. It might be parsnips. I'd better say thank you for watching, because this will probably shut down any second now. Several people are doing the straw bale gardens again. This one's got tomatoes and peppers in it. Tomatoes are already in bloom. I'm using last year's straw bales as mulch in my Ruth Stout garden, almost to the top of the garden now, but I'm going to be adding more because it packs down as you continue watering it. Well, thank you very much for watching. I'll get this closed down and up on YouTube.